Starting a business, a new business, will require trade-offs. You may not eat your cake and be able to have it. So I want to quickly talk about the trade-offs you need to consider. Now, we're gradually heading into the test, how you can test a business idea, right? The first is a dilemma, which is that there are businesses that have low barriers. Low barriers meaning you can quickly test them with little or no money, with little or no risk, to find out whether this business has potential, whether it is viable or feasible. So there are businesses that have a low barrier. There are businesses that have a high barrier. What it means is that you have to spend a lot of money to find out whether they will work or not. Or it may be very difficult to test them. Let me give you an example. Imagine you want to start an airline. If you want to start an airline, the only way to know, besides the research you're going to do before you launch the airline, is to actually start the airline. You need at least one plane, one aircraft. Whether you are doing private jet services or you're doing commercial airline, the commercial airline business, you need at least one plane. An airline is not something you can start on a small scale. So the barrier to entering the airline industry is high. If you want to go into pharmaceutical production, there's no low scale way of doing it. Why? In a place like Nigeria, you need regulatory approval, you need a permit, you need a license from NAFDAC in Nigeria to open a pharmaceutical production facility. You need to have the capacity to formulate medicines, go through the rigorous clinical trials that you have to go through before your drugs will be approved. If you're going to set up a manufacturing plant, you cannot do it on a low scale. You won't set up a school, a secondary school or a primary school. Many of these things, you can't set them up on a low scale. You have to actually start. So these are businesses that have a high barrier to entry. So a couple of, like I've just mentioned, capital. There are some business ideas that have a low capital requirement, so you can quickly start them up. Consulting is one example. So as a trained accountant and as somebody who has experience in consulting, in professional consulting, to start a consulting business is not capital intensive because everything I need is here. All I just need is my first client. I do the work and I get paid. Then from that, gradually from that money, I can start to expand. I now get other things. But it's a low barrier business, right? Anything that requires skill, you are a plumber, you are a hairdresser, you know how to cut hair, you know how to repair cars. Besides the tools you will need to do your work, it's a low barrier kind of business. Compared to some of the other businesses I talked to you about, an airline, a manufacturing plant, pharmaceutical production business, those are high barrier businesses. So if you're looking at a business idea and the barrier to enter is high, you may need to consider, because failing in a low barrier business is not the same as failing with a high barrier business. If I start a consulting business and it doesn't work out, I can easily move on because it doesn't require a lot of capital to start. But if I start an airline and it doesn't work, it may hit me and set me back many years. The cost of failure is not the same. So there are some businesses you start, failure, you can easily brush it up and move on. There are some that if you start and you fail, you are going to you hit the ground. So that is something you need to consider when you are looking at a business idea. Another is regulation, legal. There are some businesses you need to start. You need a license, you need a permit. If you want to start a barber shop, you don't need a license or permit. If you want to start a furniture production facility, you necessarily don't need a permit. If you want to start a farm, a production, either to farm vegetables or fruits, you don't need a license. If you want to go into pharmaceutical production, you need a license. You want to go into an airline, you need a license. You want to set up a hospital, you need a license. You want to start a school, you need a license. And sometimes you want to go into mining. You want to start mining for minerals. Mic check, mic is good. You want to go into mining minerals and all that. You need a license, you need a permit. So if you have a business idea, if you have business ideas, you need to look more favorable on the ones that you can easily start without having to go through permits and all that. But if you're going to go through permits, then the question of feasibility starts. Do you have the resources to get the permits? Do you meet the requirements to get the permits? Because for some of these permits, they ask you for certain things. Besides the capital requirements, there might be requirements for capacity. Do you have the infrastructure on ground? All the requirements that they need to give you the license or the permits, do you have it? If you're interested in learning more about the topics I offer when it comes to starting, building, and growing a business, this is your opportunity to join my community. It's known as the BMG. I provide extensive courses on different topics and challenges that afflict business owners, from how to optimize your profits, how to manage costs, how to boost your sales, how to develop processes, how to scale your business. There's a whole lot that I can teach you. If you want to go deeper into my content, this is your chance. Go to the link on your screen right now, jointhebmg.com.